Welcome, and thank you for joining Research Nova Scotia's information session for this year's Masters and Doctoral Scotia Scholars Competition. My name is Megan Bellefontaine. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Director, Research Support for Research Nova Scotia, and I'm your host for today's session. Before we start this afternoon, I just want to begin by acknowledging that Research Nova Scotia is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship that were struck in 1725-26 that have established a long-standing relationship between the nations. We are all treaty people. I also want to recognize that the people of African descent who have lived and contributed to Nova Scotia have been here for more than 400 years. So before we start, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. I will ask that you enter any questions into the Q&A section found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can enter questions at any time during the presentation, and I will do my best to answer all questions at the end of the webinar if we have time. I will also note that today's webinar is being recorded and will be available along with copies of the webinar slides on the Research Nova Scotia Scotia Scholars landing page by early next week. So with that, I'll turn off my camera to conserve a little bit of bandwidth, and we'll get started. So today, we're going to have a variety of topics, including a brief introduction to Research Nova Scotia, an overview of the Scotia Scholars Award, the application and review processes, and finally, a short Q&A session. Research Nova Scotia was founded in 2019 to support, organize, and coordinate research in our province. Our research strategy has been organized into 4 areas: improved quality of life for Nova Scotians, healthy people and healthcare systems, climate change adaptation and resilience, and sustainable bioeconomy. These areas represent some of the most pressing needs of the province. Each area is made up of 4 corresponding missions, which help to give shape to the ways research can contribute to achieving progress for Nova Scotia. This mission-oriented approach to research means that we start with what we want to accomplish and build a research agenda and coalition of partners and projects to help achieve these goals. We seek to support creativity, diversity, and ingenuity in the research community's responses to our mission challenges. Funding for the Scotia Scholars Award is provided by the Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness. As such, all submissions considered for funding must reflect the health pillar of Research Nova Scotia's mission-oriented strategy, which uses research to support a healthy population and strong healthcare system. In your submission, each applicant must demonstrate how the project contributes to one or more of the Research Nova Scotia health missions. So those are to advance disease detection, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. So through health and life sciences research, including lab work, clinical trials, and social science studies, scientists are improving our understanding of the ways in which diseases impact the human body, how they can be detected earlier and more accurately, ways to treat disease, and preventative measures that can reduce the chance of disease. With this mission, Research Nova Scotia is looking for improved methods of diagnosis, treatment, and prevention for diseases impacting Nova Scotians' health. The second mission in this area is to strengthen our healthcare delivery system. To strengthen the healthcare system, it is vital to integrate public policy and decision-making with practitioners and clinicians and take a whole systems view of the healthcare delivery system. With an aging population and increasing health costs, money alone cannot solve these challenges. This mission aims to harness the creativity of our healthcare system for innovative and efficient improvements that can lead to a stronger, more sustainable system. We want to achieve an outcome of an efficient, supportive, and accessible healthcare system that works for all Nova Scotians. So the third mission under Healthy People and Healthcare Systems is care for our vulnerable populations. This mission seeks to build resilience in the system by focusing on the people who need the most care and those who face barriers to equitable access or equal opportunity for health outcomes in Nova Scotia. While every member of society faces vulnerability at some point or other throughout their lifetime, segments of the population that face additional systemic challenges include African Nova Scotians, Indigenous communities, people living in poverty, people with mental illness or addiction, people with disabilities, and seniors. Building a resilient society means caring for every member. We are looking to build a population with compassionate, effective healthcare access, no matter their religion, economic circumstances, or age. And the final mission under Healthy People in Healthcare Systems is to prevent negative impacts to health and well-being. This mission supports preventative healthcare and healthy living at all ages and in all regions of the province. While it is impossible to avoid all illness, disease, or a need for primary care, this mission addresses the ways in which people can lead healthier, more fulfilling lives. This outcome on which this mission is built is a population that improves the health of future generations. So the 2024-25 Scotia Scholars Award provides financial support to students with exceptional potential who are or wish to be engaged in health research projects at participating institutions. Recipients will participate on a project supported by a research supervisor. This award will support the growth, acquisition, and retention of highly skilled individuals who are advancing and translating knowledge in disease detection, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention, strengthening healthcare delivery systems, caring for vulnerable populations, and preventing negative impacts to the health and well-being. So the current iteration of Scotia Scholars is open to two levels of candidates, those in master's programs and those in doctoral programs. This first slide I'm showing here details the master's level award, and the following slide will focus on the doctoral level. So regardless of the academic level, this award will enable student researchers to develop new research skills and increase confidence by having hands-on experience in active research and exposure to the research process. The financial support provided by this award allows students to focus solely on their academic commitments and thus enables them to achieve higher academic success, finish their degree on time, engage in professional development opportunities, and more. Some students have even reported that this higher academic standing has allowed them to continue to higher education and have a competitive advantage when applying for additional funding. As mentioned, this slide provides a few details about the doctoral level award. This year, we have 6 institutions participating in the master's competition and 4 institutions participating in the doctoral competition. To be eligible for a master's level award, students must have applied to, been accepted in, or be enrolled in year 1 of a full-time thesis-based master's degree program. To be eligible for a doctoral level award, students must have applied to, been accepted in, or be enrolled in year 1, 2, or 3 of a full-time thesis-based doctoral degree program. In addition to these criteria, all applicants must be engaged in research activities that align with Research Nova Scotia's health mission. They must achieve first-class average in each of the last 2 completed years of study. However, in some circumstances, institutions may offer a Scotia Scholars Award to applicants who have not obtained first-class average. The students must be in good standing for enrollment for the upcoming school year. Any successful applicants must maintain all applicable eligibility criteria for the full duration of the award. If a student finishes their program of study before the end of the award, they may be able to continue to hold the award if it is approved by the supervisor, their institution, and Research Nova Scotia. Applicants may also only hold 1 Scotia Scholars Award at a time, and all external funding must be reported to your institution to ensure that students do not exceed the institutional funding cap. Finally, it's also important to note that Scotia Scholars Awards are not transferable. An applicant may have up to 2 supervisors. Each supervisor must be a person who has been deemed eligible by their institution. That is, they are authorized to independently supervise students. Each supervisor is also required to sign a supervisor agreement form, which is provided both on the Research Nova Scotia website and through their JURA application form. We will go into more detail about this form a bit later in the presentation. Master students may be awarded up to $12,500 per year for up to 2 years. Doctoral applicants may be awarded up to $18,750 per year for up to 4 years. All applications must be submitted through Research Nova Scotia's JURA system by 1 p.m. Atlantic time on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. JURA will not allow submissions that come in after this time, and any application not submitted by this date and time will be marked ineligible for consideration. We strongly recommend that you do not leave your submission to the last minute. Technical errors can and do occur at the worst possible moments, and unfortunately, exceptions cannot be made under any circumstances. Both the leadership and supervisor reference letters must also be submitted by the end of the day on April 25th, 2024. These letters must be submitted directly to Research Nova Scotia via the apply@researchns.ca email address. Letters must be submitted directly from the referee. Letters that are submitted late or by the student will not be accepted. It is the responsibility of the student to arrange to have these letters sent to Research Nova Scotia. Your referees are likely very busy people. We recommend that you reach out to them as soon as possible to make sure they have enough time to complete your letter of reference. In this correspondence, make sure that you include the deadline for submission, as late letters will not be accepted. If one or both letters are not received by the deadline, your application will be marked ineligible. Finally, funding decisions are anticipated to happen in June 2024, and the anticipated start of funding is September 1st, 2024. So, how do you apply for this award? The first step is to confirm your eligibility criteria. Be sure to review the criteria mentioned earlier in this presentation to ensure that you are eligible for this award. Applicants who do not meet the eligibility criteria will be deemed ineligible. The criteria can be found on the Research Nova Scotia website, in the slide deck, and embedded on the online application form. So next, you must register for a Jura account and complete your EDIA self-declaration. Jura is Research Nova Scotia's online grant management portal. All applications must be submitted through Jura. As a first step, you will navigate to Jura from the Research Nova Scotia website. You'll want to select the For Researchers heading and click on Jura Login. Next, you will log in using either existing system credentials if you've applied for a previous award, or if you are new to the system, click the Register button to sign up for a Jura account. Once you're on the registration page, you will first need to look up your organization. This should be the institution at which you will be enrolled during the length of your Scotia Scholars Award. If you select the wrong institution at sign up, please reach out to our Jura help desk and we will be happy to help resolve this issue. When entering the name of your institution, a drop-down box with all matching entries will appear. Be sure to select the entry from this pop-up box to associate your account with the appropriate organization. Next, you will complete the contact information section. Please note that any sections marked with an asterisk are required. Finally, you'll complete an equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility self-declaration. EDIA strengthen the research community and the quality, social relevance, and impact of research. EDIA-informed analyses, systems, and practices ensure barriers faced by the underrepresented or disadvantaged groups are identified and addressed, which in turn enhances the integrity of application and selection processes, strengthens research outputs, and increases the overall excellence of research. All information provided to Research Nova Scotia will be kept strictly confidential and will not be shared with any third party. If you do not want to self-identify, you have the option to select Prefer Not to Say for each question. You may change your answers to these questions at any time by following the instructions outlined in the How to Complete an EDIA Self-Declaration in Jura document on the Scotia Scholars landing page on the Research Nova Scotia website. When all fields are complete, you'll hit the Submit button to create your account in Jura. Shortly after submitting, you will receive an automated email from Smart Simple with a link to set your password. Once your password is set, you will need to agree to the Jura privacy policy and terms of use and will be redirected to your user homepage. So as noted, EDIA self-declaration is required from all applicants. For users who have an existing Jura account, they will need to log into their system using their existing credentials, click on the personal profile link on their homepage, and select the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility tab. As with the previous option for new users, if you do not wish to self-identify, you have the option to select Prefer Not to Say for each question. As you successfully registered for Jura and you've completed your EDIA self-declaration, you may now start working on your application. From the Jura homepage, you will select Funding Opportunities section. From here, locate the opportunity associated with your institution and click the Apply Now button to launch your application. The first thing you will need to do when you start a new application is hit the Save Draft button. This will assign you a unique application number in the system, which allows you to return to working on your application at any time. In subsequent sessions, you can find your draft application in the In Progress Application section of your Jura homepage. While working on your application, you must follow the guidelines for this opportunity. The detailed guidelines document can be found here on the top of your Jura application and on the Research Nova Scotia website on the Scotia Scholars landing page. We strongly recommend that you take the time to read the guidelines thoroughly to set up your application for success. Finally, you will begin work on your application by selecting either Master's or Doctoral from the award type drop-down list. This will populate the eligibility criteria and questions for that award level. You can click through the various tabs located on the top of your application to access the different application sections. As usual, any question marked with an asterisk is mandatory. It is also important to note that Jura will not automatically save your progress, so we recommend that you save frequently to avoid losing your work. We've also noticed that there are a few areas of the application where there is often confusion or maybe some uncertainty. As such, I wanted to dedicate a few moments of this webinar to provide some additional clarification around objectives, the project description and plain language summary, alignment to Research Nova Scotia missions, the supervisor agreement form, the CV submission, and transcripts. So first, we'll take a quick look at objectives. To start thinking about how to develop your research objectives, you will first want to state the overall aim of the research. Your objectives should follow from that. They are the expected outcomes from your research as you pursue that aim. Most projects will have multiple outcomes, but we recommend that you are concise. In addition to the objectives stemming from the aim of the research, Research Nova Scotia also allows for objectives that demonstrate how the project will increase the researcher's capacity. For example, using a specific methodological approach or using a piece of specialized equipment. While acceptable, these objectives should supplement the main research objectives rather than be the focus of the objectives. Remember, if you're successful, you will be asked to report your progress toward all of the objectives you provide. Some examples of appropriate outcome-focused and capacity-building objectives are included on this slide for your consideration. As mentioned, more is not always better. Applicants should include as few objectives as necessary to allow Research Nova Scotia to understand what it is they want to accomplish. Students should not include academic objectives such as obtaining an A average or completing their program of study. So second, we'll take a quick look at the project description and plain language summary. Both your institution and Research Nova Scotia will review your plain language summary and your project description to ensure that your proposal meets the criteria for a Scotia Scholars Award. You should ensure that your plain language summary is a clear and concise overview of the project that is written in language suitable for a non-scientific audience. A layperson with no scientific knowledge should be able to read your plain language summary and get a sense of what research you're doing, why it's important, and what you think will happen as a result of the research being done. Wherever possible, avoid using jargon, abbreviations, and technical terms. Your project description is your opportunity to provide us with details of your research project. You should provide a clear and concise description of the proposed research project that includes a description of the issue or topic to be researched, the research objectives, methodology, and your hypothesis. The potential impact these activities will have on the field of health research and the health of Nova Scotians, and how the results of your research project will be communicated back to those who will use them. Next, we need to carefully consider and clearly state how the project aligns with Research Nova Scotia health missions. As noted earlier in this presentation, funding for the Scotia Scholars Award is provided by the Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness. As such, all submissions considered for funding must be aligned with the health pillar of Research Nova Scotia's mission-oriented strategy, which uses research to support a healthy population and strong healthcare system. When completing your application on Jura, you must select the Healthy People and Healthcare Systems mission area. Once this mission area is selected, all of the health missions will appear. These should look familiar to you as they have been discussed a bit earlier in the presentation. As a reminder, the missions are to advance disease detection, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention, strengthen our healthcare delivery system, care for vulnerable populations, and prevent negative impacts to health and well-being. Select the health mission or missions that you feel best fit with your proposal, and you will need to demonstrate how the project will contribute to achieving the missions you've selected in the text box that's provided on your JURA application. Applications that do not choose the Healthy People and Healthcare Systems mission area will be marked ineligible for consideration. Now we'll move on to reviewing the supervisor agreement form. The supervisor agreement form outlines the responsibilities of the supervisor over the duration of the award. If there is co-supervision, a form must be signed by both supervisors. All applications will be reviewed to ensure that the supervisor who signs this form is the same as listed in your application. By signing this form, the supervisor agrees to review and approve the student's progress reports when applicable, work plans when applicable, and final reports to ensure they accurately represent the project's progress and results. Supervisors must notify Research Nova Scotia and the administering institution's student funding office if the student is no longer involved in the project, or if the project topic and objectives change significantly from the submitted proposal. If the supervisor is no longer able to supervise the student, or should they no longer be employed at the administering institution, they must inform Research Nova Scotia immediately. Supervisors will be copied on all reporting reminder emails sent to the students. If Research Nova Scotia is unable to obtain a progress or final report from the student, the supervisor will also assist with retrieving these reports. If a signed version of this agreement is not received by Research Nova Scotia, your application will be deemed ineligible. Next, we'll review the CV requirements. All applicants must submit an up-to-date CV in PDF format. A Word version of the CV template containing all of the information required can be downloaded from the Scotia Scholars Award section of the Research Nova Scotia website. So while CVs don't adhere to the exact formatting provided, they must contain all of the information requested in the same order as it is listed in the example, so that it is easier for reviewers to navigate and compare all applications. Finally, I will briefly talk about transcripts. Applicants must upload transcripts from all current and past academic institutions. Official transcripts are required for all past institutions that are listed on your CV. These official transcripts must also include legends and transfer credits. A copy of your unofficial transcript or grade report is only acceptable for the institution where you are completing your master's or doctoral studies. That is, the institution at which you will hold your Scotia Scholars Award. These unofficial transcripts will be validated by the institution to ensure authenticity. So while working on your Scotia Scholars application, there are 3 buttons at the bottom of your JURA screen: Save Draft, Withdraw, and Submit. As mentioned, you will want to save draft frequently to ensure that you do not lose any work on your JURA application. JURA will not automatically save your work, so please save often. Should you choose not to move forward in the competition, you may withdraw your application at any point before the deadline by clicking on the Withdraw button. Once your application is complete and ready for submission, we first suggest that you review how your application will appear to the review committees by clicking on the Application Summary button found at the top of your application in JURA. Clicking this button will produce a PDF version of your application. This is the version of your application that will be shared with the committees for their review. As such, we strongly recommend taking the time to make sure that all of your application is showing up as intended before submitting your Scotia Scholars application. Once you are satisfied with the application, click the Submit button to submit your application to Research Nova Scotia. If you try to submit your application without completing one of the mandatory fields, you will receive a submission failed message that will direct you to correct the information in your application. You must navigate each section of the application and correct these errors. This may mean entering text into a field that you missed, uploading a document to the correct field, or you may get an error 33. If you receive a submission 33 error, this means that you have pressed the Enter button while adding your objectives into the JIRA system. To resolve this error, you will need to go to About the Project tab on your application, scroll down to the Objectives section, delete any extra lines, click Save, and try again to submit. Sometimes these can be difficult to find, such as an extra line at the end of your objective entry. If you're having trouble locating this error, please email the Research Nova Scotia help desk. Finally, you may receive an error message regarding your EDIA self-declaration. To resolve this error, click on the Applicant Home button, click on the Personal Profile tab, and navigate to the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility tab. You will need to complete the questions noted in your submission failure message. This may be regarding Indigenous identity, racialized minority group, disability, gender identity, language, or age cohort. As noted, you may choose to select Prefer Not to Save for any or all of these categories. Once completed and saved, you will need to return to your application and try again to submit. We strongly encourage that you submit your applications as early as possible to ensure that technical errors such as these do not prevent the submission of your application on time. The final step in the application process is ensuring that your letters of reference are submitted to Research Nova Scotia. Both the leadership and supervisor reference letters must be submitted by the end of the day on April 25th, 2024. These letters must be submitted directly to Research Nova Scotia via the apply@researchns.ca email address. Letters must be submitted directly from the referee. Letters that are submitted late or submitted by the student will not be accepted. It is the responsibility of the student to arrange to have these letters sent to Research Nova Scotia. Your referees are likely very busy people. We recommend you reach out to them as soon as possible to make sure they have enough time to complete your letter of reference. Again, in this correspondence, make sure that you include the deadline for submission, as late letters will not be accepted. Assessments should be completed by individuals that are familiar enough with the applicant's research and other abilities so that they can provide a meaningful commentary. Applicants must contact their proposed references as early as possible to ensure that they are willing and able to complete an assessment on time for the application deadline. I highly recommend sending a little friendly reminder every now and then to the referees to ensure that they submit their letter on time. Nobody wants to be the reason your application is deemed ineligible. Ask early and ask often. Referees must send their letters directly to Research Nova Scotia prior to the deadline of April 25th, 2024 at midnight. If one or both of the letters are not received by this deadline, the student application will be marked ineligible. The supervising letter of reference should come from the applicant's supervisor or potential supervisor and address the applicant's demonstrated and potential academic and research abilities. If a supervisor has not yet been identified, another faculty member may complete the academic reference letter. Please check with your institutional representative to clarify who is most appropriate for this role. The letter should specifically address the following attributes: critical thinking. This means a thoughtful evaluation of all information, regardless of source. For example, the quality of the student's analytical skills, independence in pursuing knowledge or acting on the student's own initiative and seeking guidance only when appropriate. Perseverance, meaning a determined persistence in pursuit of goals despite obstacles or discouragement. Showing originality, creativity, or ingenuity in problem solving. Organization skills, which should be shown through systematic, careful planning and coordination of activities, including an ability to complete projects in a timely manner. An interest in discovery, shown by an inquiring mind and a strong desire to pursue new knowledge. A research ability, which is a natural talent or acquired proficiency for scientific investigation. And finally, effective interpersonal, verbal, and written communication skills. It's also important to note that if an applicant has not met the requirement for a first-class standing, the supervisor letter should also justify why the student should be considered for the Scotia Scholars Award. So the leadership letter of reference must come from a person who can address the applicant's demonstrated and potential leadership abilities. Specifically, the leadership letter of reference should address the following: significant personal achievement, for example, athletic, artistic, cultural, or entrepreneurial achievement, volunteerism, civic engagement, or community outreach, specific leadership qualities exhibited by the student, self-management shown by the ability to prioritize and maintain a balance between their work and personal life, integrity shown in that they act consistently according to their ethical values and accept personal accountability for the consequences of their actions and decisions. And finally, the student uses social skills to develop positive relationships with a diverse range of people, cares about and listens to what others say, is supportive of their peers, and is well respected, trustworthy, and dependable. Once the deadline has passed, the review process starts with Research Nova Scotia's eligibility check. Research Nova Scotia staff will assess all applications to determine whether they are complete and meet the administrative eligibility criteria prior to sending the applications to the institutions. Applications that do not meet basic administrative eligibility criteria will be marked ineligible and not provided to the institution for consideration. Next, the list of eligible applications will be reviewed by each institution in accordance with their scholarship review practices and the assessment criteria outlined for this award. Once their review is complete, institutions will provide Research Nova Scotia with final recommendations for each application. Applicants may be recommended for funding, marked as alternate candidates, which means they may receive funding if an applicant declines the award, or they may be marked as ineligible for funding. Research Nova Scotia will review all of the applicants recommended for funding and those recommended as alternates to ensure that the applicants are aligned with the Research Nova Scotia health missions and research parameters. Research Nova Scotia will liaise with the institution and candidates to confirm any needed details as needed. Finally, Research Nova Scotia will notify applicants of all funding decisions and for successful applicants will implement the process for award acceptance and payment. All applications considered for funding must clearly demonstrate alignment with one or more of Research Nova Scotia's health missions as demonstrated in the Research Nova Scotia missions section of the application and throughout the project descriptions. Applications that do not demonstrate alignment will not be considered for funding and will not move forward to the next step of evaluation. Once alignment's been established, all applicants will be evaluated based on their research ability and potential and relevant experience and achievements obtained within and beyond academia. Reviewers will look for the quality of the research proposal, relevant training, research experience and achievements, quality of contributions, demonstration of sound judgment and ability to think critically, demonstration of response and ethical research conduct, enthusiasm for research, originality, initiative, autonomy, relevant community involvement and outreach, the ability or potential to communicate theoretical, technical, and/or scientific concepts clearly and logically in written and oral formats, scholarships, awards, and distinctions, the academic record, and professional, academic, and extracurricular activities, as well as collaborations with supervisors, colleagues, peers, students, and members of the community. More in-depth definitions for each of these evaluation criteria can be found on the Scotia Scholars landing page of the Research Nova Scotia website and in the guidelines for this opportunity. Finally, if you require support with your application, or if you have questions regarding your eligibility, please do not hesitate to reach out to the appropriate contact listed for your institution here. Any technical issues that you run into while submitting your Social Scholars Award via Jura can be brought forward to our help desk account here. So thank you for taking the time to join me for today's webinar. I'll now open the floor to questions. And as a reminder, please type any questions into the Q&A feature here on Zoom. If I don't get to your question before the end of this session, I will also do my best to reach out via email after this webinar. So I do see, I'll turn back on my camera here, and I do see that we have a few other questions. The first question I have is, can I get a copy of the PowerPoint, which is being displayed here? Absolutely. Copies of the PowerPoint slide will be available on the Research Nova Scotia website under both the Masters and Doctoral Scotia Scholars landing pages. So we're currently asked you to register for this session. That will be replaced with the recording of this webinar today, as well as the PowerPoint slides. Okay. So the next question I'm seeing here is, I am a student transitioning from MSc to PhD but this won't be official until after the deadline for application. How do I go about applying in this case? So in these kind of cases, I would recommend that you reach out to the appropriate contact listed for your institution. They'll be able to recommend the best path forward in that case. The next question is, do I need to submit my high school transcript as well? No, we only require transcripts from post-secondary education. And then the next question I'm seeing is there a defined, for instance, maximum length of reference letter? No, we do not put a maximum or a minimum length on reference letters. They can be as long as your referee would like them to be. Okay, so as an incoming student for fall 2024, does the supervisor letter have to come from the prospective supervisor, or can it come from a previous supervisor that can speak better to working with the student? So our recommendation with that is to go to the person who would be able to best speak to your research abilities. So usually that will be the previous supervisor who's worked with you most closely. Um, in those cases, I do also recommend that potentially your uh, potential supervisor or the one who will be supervising you for the length of your Scotia Scholars Award also potentially sign off. They may do like a dual letter in that case, just so they can speak a little bit to those skills as well. But it's absolutely all right if you don't have someone identified for it just to come from your previous supervisor that has worked with you. All right. So, and then the next question I'm seeing here is it recommended that the leadership letter of reference come from an academic source, for example, a professor, or is it more appropriate for this reference to come from an employer? It's absolutely fine to do either of those in that case. So if whomever can speak to the skills, so I'll just go back here. So it'll be whoever can speak to the skills that are listed here to the best of your ability, whoever knows you best from that respect. There isn't any preference for someone who's working in academia versus someone who has supervised you at a job, for instance. So there's another question here. I have co-supervisors. So to confirm, altogether, I would have 3 reference letters. So usually what we recommend when you do have co-supervisors is that they submit 1 supervisor letter of reference. So we will only accept 2 reference letters total, 1 leadership and 1 from a supervisor. So when you do have co-supervisors, we do recommend that they write one in conjunction with each other. They both sign off on that letter. Okay. I see one question of what is the definition of African Nova Scotian that Research Nova Scotia uses. We don't actually have a definition. It is entirely up to the individual answering those EDIA questions to determine what they feel best suits their identity. Okay. That one's answered. So one is 10 students outside of Canada join this program. We do not have any limitations on whether it's just Canadian students or international students that can apply for Scotia Scholars. So international students are absolutely welcome to apply. So this is, does the supervisor agreement form need to be sent directly by our PI to Research Nova Scotia or just online? So you just have to upload that onto your JURA application. There's a space for it in the supervisor section. So all we need is that they sign that form, they provide it to you as the student, and then you would upload it into that space in your JURA application. And then once it's submitted, staff from Research Nova Scotia will look at that form, will open it up, we'll make sure that the person who has signed it matches those that you have listed as your supervisor as well. So no need to send it directly to us. So this question is, if I have 2 supervisors and one is not necessarily on the project I am working on, do I need to get an agreement form signed by both? So anyone that you list as a supervisor in your JURA application should sign the supervisor agreement form, yes. This question is, how do you calculate GPA for the last 2 years if you did a master's a while ago? Is there any guidance on how to do this? So that would be a question best addressed to your institutional contact listed here. They should have some parameters on how they want you to calculate that GPA for the last 2 years. Oh, I'm losing my mouse here. Okay, there we go. On the CV, it says to indicate all research training and university degrees obtained. How is research training defined? Would this include research training courses we have completed? I would recommend including research training courses you have completed, any kind of research experience that you have. So any kind of training, whether it's really formal or whether it's um, something a bit less formal. It doesn't have to be a specific course and training course. Anything you feel would fit in that category, we would absolutely be happy to see. And this question is, would a previous supervisor be appropriate for the leadership reference? Absolutely. If you feel that person can speak to those qualities, that is absolutely fine. Okay. So the next question I'm seeing is, will a visa be given for the online courses that students can choose co-op or part-time? Again, that would be a question better directed to your university rep listed here. Okay. If I am a student in my first semester of my master's, do I need to submit an academic record for this semester, even though class grades won't be released until after the deadline? And should I include this semester's classes in my calculation for average for submission? Okay. That may be one of those specific questions that would be best directed to the institution. Generally, I would say to use, and for in your calculations, use anything that you have the grades for rather than estimating what would happen for this semester. But again, the best person to answer those questions would be one of the contacts listed here for your particular institution. Okay, I am a student of psychology, final year of the bachelor's, going to complete it from Pakistan. Can they apply for scholarship? Absolutely, yes. International students are welcome to apply for the Scotia Scholars Award, provided that they meet all of the eligibility criteria listed. Okay, so when listing our publications on the CV, can we include manuscripts under review or only published? You are absolutely welcome to include manuscripts that are under review. We would just ask that you kind of put parentheses that one is under review at the moment, just so we know the difference between those that are published and those that are still under review. Okay, and this question is, will we receive a notification when letters are sent? So we won't send out individual notifications to everyone when the letters are received by Research Nova Scotia. However, we do make a general practice of, for any applications that are started in the JURA system 1 week prior to the deadline, we will send out notifications to everybody to let you know either that we have received both of your letters, that we have received one of your letters, or that we have not received either of your letters. So again, that will go out only to applicants who have started their application in JURA 1 week prior to the deadline. And I will also mention on that one quickly, I should say, once the deadline has passed, Research Nova Scotia will start their eligibility review. And as part of that, one of the things we look for is whether one or both of the letters of reference have been received. And we will send out notifications to any students who are marked ineligible to let them know the reasons that they have been marked out ineligible. So sometimes that might be that we didn't receive your letter on time. So next question I'm seeing here is, do I need to work on a project that is aligned with my research, or any project that may be linked with my supervisor. It's certainly going to be recommended that you work on a project aligned with your research interests, but you will need to work that out with this person who is supervising you to make sure that it is the best project for this opportunity. Okay. Someone's asking, what if I choose to not to disclose in self-identification? Are there any negative consequences? Absolutely not. Um, there's we don't even send out the EDIA criteria or answers when we're making the selection of this. It's simply for us to improve our internal processes and make sure that we can address any barriers that we are seeing kind of come up time over time. So there will be absolutely no negative consequences if you choose not to self-disclose on any measure of EDIA. Okay, should the leadership letter come from the institution of my post-education or any previous educational or work experience? Your leadership letter of reference can come from anyone who knows you well enough to answer those questions. So it could be any of your previous education, it could be any of your previous work supervisors. That would be fine. Okay, so the next one is, can we submit the supervisor letter of reference related to my job, or will it specifically from my educational related supervisor? We'll just go back here to the supervisor letter of reference. So the supervisor letter of reference should come from your current supervisor, or if that person doesn't know you very well, your previous academic supervisor. So they should come from an academic supervisor rather than someone from your job. And this one is, would you accept students with study gaps? I suspect so, but before you work too far on your application, again, I'd recommend that you reach out to your institution um, uh, contact listed here. They would be able to best address your specific circumstance. Okay, and someone's asking again, will this recording and PowerPoint be sent to everyone? So right now they are not going to be sent out, but they will be available on the website. The next question is, are we to use a CV template found on the Research Nova Scotia website, edit it with our own information, or just follow the format and make our own CV? Either is fine. If you'd like to use the Research Nova Scotia template and enter your information into it, that's a-okay. Or if you have your own format that you prefer to use, that's absolutely fine, assuming that you're following the same order of information, just so it makes it a little bit easier for us to compare and contrast across students. Okay, so then the next question I'm seeing is, how many students get funded by Research Nova Scotia? So really it depends. That's never the answer that you want to hear, but given that we have a certain amount of funding and it goes towards both master's and doctoral students, and each individual institution gives us their list of recommendations. It'll really depend on the number of students who've applied for master's level awards and the number of students who've applied for doctoral level awards. So it's up to the institutions to kind of recommend that that metric to us. So we don't have a set number. It'll just be the amount of students recommended from your institution. Okay, so the next question I'm seeing is, if I did a semester abroad as an exchange program, do I need to submit the transcript from the university where the exchange occurred if the exchange program is already documented on the transcript from the original university? I would say that you would likely only need to submit the one from the original university. So we do recommend that if you have any transfer credits or something like that, that they are listed on those official transcripts. So as long as they are there somewhere, we will be happy with that. The next question is, can the leadership letter come from a colleague? I don't see why not, if that's the best person to answer those things. It's always going to be better to be coming from a supervisor or something of the like, but if a colleague is your best option there, we have no rules against that. Okay, then we have a question is the CCV appropriate? Um, Absolutely, you may use the CCV, but we just want to make sure that it's in that same, originally, these were based off of the CCV, so they should be in the same order, but you'll just kind of want to check and make sure that the Canadian Commons CV format still aligns with what we're looking for. Okay. Okay, so I'm seeing, does Research Nova Scotia consider the LGBTQ plus population a vulnerable population within the vulnerable populations household? Absolutely. The LGBTQ plus community can absolutely be considered a vulnerable population for the purposes of these of your research work here for Scotia Scholars. Do we have to use the CV template if we already have a CV? Yes, you will only want to use the CV template if your current CV does not match the order. So I'll just go back to the slide. Bear with me here. Transcripts, CVs. So essentially, regardless of what CV template you ultimately choose to use, you just want to make sure that we have the identification listed first, then the academic background, work experience, distinctions, award credentials, and recent funding. So what I actually might, I hope that everyone can see this still. I'm not seeing. All right. Can someone let me know whether you can see just the PowerPoint slide or whether you can see um, my screen? Okay, so can you just see the PowerPoint slide or can you see the internet browser I'm looking at? Okay, excellent. So we can see the web page. So I'm just going to open up the CV template, which can be found here in the Scotia Scholars. So I'm just looking at the one from Doctoral, but it's in the same place for Masters. So essentially, regardless of what CV template you use, you'll want to make sure that you have your identification listed first. So you have your name, student identification number, mailing address, phone number, email address. And then the next thing you list will be your details of academic background, which should include all of these types of details, your work experience that has these details, et cetera, et cetera. Perfect. Okay. I gotta go through all of these again. Yeah. And someone asked if there's more information than what we're asking for here that's on the CCV. Is that fine? Yes, that's absolutely fine. And I'm someone asking, are children considered vulnerable? They absolutely can. It could be, yes. Okay. So someone is, if I have a letter of permission course that was taken at an institution during my undergrad, and the grade is on the transcript from the graduating institution, would I need to submit a transcript from institution two to RNS? Would the transcript from institution one be sufficient? So I'll probably ask that you reach out directly to us with that information. So I'll just bring back up my PowerPoint slide, go to the very end here, and my email address. well, you send them through to info, and we can look into that specific question. So it'll be a little bit easier if we have context, if you just want to send that information along here to info. Okay. Now I have someone asking, are women considered vulnerable, or for example, women with PCOS? Absolutely could be. It entirely depends on the context of your application. So I would say yes or no. That's something I would recommend that you discuss with your supervisor around vulnerability, how to define it for your Scotia Scholars application. Okay, someone's asking, does the CV have a specific number of pages? I believe, oh, I gotta exit that. CV template, I don't know. Oh, there it is. It's on my other screen. So I believe that we used to put stipulations on how long your CV could be, but really as long as you are answering the questions about what order, as long as you're in the right order, you have all the information that's listed here, we're not putting stipulations on how long it should be anymore. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have that on there before I said that. Okay. So there are a couple of other questions I have on here that I haven't answered out loud, because there are a few that I think require some specific an email directly back to you to discuss it more appropriately. So if I haven't answered your question, expect an email from me after the session, and we can chat there. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at info@researchnovascotia.ca, at the help desk account here, or you can connect with any of your institutional contacts as needed. So thank you again for attending today's session, and I'll be in touch with a few of you via email after the session. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.